everyone. My name is Kath Smythe, and I'm the horticulturist with the Calgary Horticultural Society. Today, we are cooking 3 delicious recipes, which, by the way, have me quite intrigued because until I met Chef Darcy and met his incredible garlic chocolate, I never realized what you could do with it. So we are going to cook 3 really interesting dishes from the Blue Flame Kitchen. Welcome, Chef Darcy. I'm really excited to see this. What exactly are the 3 recipes we're doing?
So the 3 recipes, 2 of the recipes that we're working on are centered around one of my favorite sort of things is roasted garlic. Okay, so one of those things where we're just going to make a really simple, quick roasted garlic, get that in the oven, really make sure that everyone knows how to do that and to get into that sort of thing. But then what we're going to make is like a sweet and savory garlic bacon popcorn. So that's going to be really, really nice. Sort of like an awesome little like snack mix that's going to go really well. Sort of like, before, when you've got some friends over or for Christmas to kind of give away, sort of something like that. And then we're also going to make a roasted garlic caramel sauce. Okay, so it just sounds we're just making caramel. Everyone loves caramel, right? We're going to add in that roasted garlic, which has that natural sweetness to it. So it's not like it's going to be like, Caesar salad garlic where, you're worried about your breath or something like that afterwards. But it's that those 2 sweetnesses go so well together that it's going to be very, very surprising for you. And those ones I've actually paired with sort of one of our signature recipes, which is a pretzel bites recipe that we've got. I'm not going to be making those ones in the class. I've got them already made up. But that is a recipe that we have on our website. It's in the links below here as well, and they go so well with this garlic caramel sauce. So that's what we're taking care of today.
I think that I was reading your bio, Chef Darcy, and yes. I'm quite interested in this. I love the quote that we should all know how to cook, and it is the driving force behind your passion for being as a chef and a chef instructor. Yeah. And it's genetically passed down from your father.
Yes, exactly.
I think that's great.
Yeah, that's my father was a chef, my uncle's a chef, my brother's a chef, and I even married a chef. So it's all sort of like into our genes there for my family. So that's sort of that. And then on top, I love when I can kind of sort of erode the anxiety that people have of like being in the kitchen sort of thing. So really get past the things that give them that sticking point where, oh, I don't like this recipe because it calls for onions. And every time I cut onions, I cry or something like that. I want to share with people how to get past that sort of like thing. Or in this case, you know what? Garlic, I don't like how it might, make my breath smell or something like that. But we're doing roasted garlic today, so it's just a whole nother way to try it out. So that's sort of those things that I like to kind of help people get away from. Sometimes in my classes I refer to them as group therapy, but usually that's because they're crying from chopping onions or something like that. So.
Well, I always know that several of my chef friends are always telling me there's secrets to not crying with onion. Well, I've tried them all and nothing works. I still cry. But I noticed that you even started doing your chef training in high school.
That's right. Yeah, I did. I started in the commercial foods class that we had in high school. So basically we ran the cafeteria, or I was just sort of like a cog in the wheel. We had a Red Seal chef who had gone after his education degree, and he was our teacher for that. It was fantastic, sort of like a starting point there. And I think in high school in Alberta, you have to have 100 credits to pass. I ended up having like 50, among other things. But I think I had 55 credits through my 3 years of high school just from my foods classes in high school, and then other special projects where I would help serve lunch in the cafeteria and that sort of thing. So that's kind of where I got my start there. So yeah.
And you've worked with some famous chefs when you were at NAIT taking
Yeah,
your culinary arts.
yeah. When I did I was really lucky in one of the places that I was working at while I was going to school, and the executive chef was the team manager of Culinary Team Canada, and so I got to go on a few food adventures, going to traveling with Culinary Team Canada to Chicago for a big food show that they took part in there, and then a few years later, again going to Erfurt, Germany, which was for the Culinary Olympics, which kind of happens every 4 years, and it's countries from all around the world that get to come and sort of participate in that, and it's pretty amazing experience. And that's actually that's where I met my wife, was in Germany on that trip, kind of thing, as well. So that was it all kind of, everything ties back to sort of cooking my entire life.
Well, I find it very interesting because, as you know, you and I harvested garlic in your garden at the Blue Flame Kitchen, and I was fascinated by the fact that you seem to know more about garlic than I did. Is that part of what you took away from your traveling? I was quite pleased.
I think you probably showed me how to grow. You showed me all these sort of like the tips on that side of like how we're going to use the garlic, how we're going to dry it, how we're going to harvest it properly, how it's going to last us for a good chunk of the year. And I think, then using it. So as a chef, that I like to see where things come from, and sort of, it was in my previous job at one of the hotels here in Calgary. I got the opportunity to build up our own garden area, and so I'm always really interested in, I started with herbs and chives and small things that were kind of easy, but then like moving up to, doing the garlic, which was exciting because that's sort of we put it in the ground at this time of year, and then we just kind of cross our fingers over the winter and that kind of thing. And that's what it felt like for me.
Yes.
And then getting all the way through the season, through the scapes and those things that kind of get us there to that big payoff at the end of August or so, and then we're digging up whole heads of garlic. And I remember you saying that, I don't know how I did it, but I remember you giving me the compliment on how our elephant garlic looked so good, and it was not a easy one to grow. And I was like, I don't know what I did, but this turned out. So
well, good for I was just so pleased to see the efforts that you guys put into it, and I just thought, wow, this is so exciting. So what we should be doing is, let's talk what you're going to do first.
Yes. Yeah.
Step by step.
So first thing we're going to do is and this part is in the roasted garlic caramel sauce. It really kind of breaks down how we're going to do our roasted garlic, and it couldn't really be simpler. Is like, after you've got your garlic cured and sort of got it dried out, what we're going to do is just roast it. So pretty simple. Is that all we want to do is, with our garlic, is just sort of lop the top off. So sort of that where that neck is, just being careful, sort of just lopping up. So you're opening up all the cloves basically. So once you've got it cut, you can see that we've opened up sort of all the cloves here. Some are a little bit, you can't really get to them, but that's okay. There's some that we didn't get the top off of, but that's going to be fine. We'll it's gonna work anyways. But basically, we want to open those up so they're going to kind of roast inside their own shell.
You don't fuss with it too much. You don't want to overhandle it.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty simple, so we want to keep it simple, sort of thing. So I've got some aluminum foil just here, so I'm just going to set that one aside. And I always think, like, if we're going to do one, let's do two, let's do 3 or 4, and that's the kind of thing that really goes well with this. Is it makes it easier. So if you're doing, this recipe's calling for, both recipes are calling for 2 heads each. So of the garlic. So, if you're roasting one, you might as well roast a couple. Then you can keep some on the side as well. So basically all I'm going to do is just kind of wrap those ones up in that foil. Just give them a little bit of a sprinkle of some canola oil. It's just going to help with the browning. And then just a little sprinkle of salt as well. So just like that. And then I just like to make mine in sort of like a bit of a parcel. So just sort of folding my foil up and then a couple of folds on each side. And then we're just going to put that into a 350-degree oven. And we're going to bake that from anywhere between 45 minutes to an hour or so of our garlic. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get this one into my oven. I'm not even going to put a pan underneath it. I'm just putting it into the oven just like so. So I'm going to get that one into the oven right now. And then, of course, sort of through the magic of, you know, having done this before, I've got some that I've already roasted. And so what happens when you've got this already roasted up here is that the cloves are going to get nice and soft. And then you might think, well, how do we get them out of the cloves? And it's basically just giving them a squeeze. And it kind of like comes out. I remember one of the first times I saw this was they're saying, oh, it's just like toothpaste. And I was like, that's a funny parallel to draw when you're squeezing garlic out of the cloves, is that, you know, you wouldn't actually want to brush your teeth with this, but
no.
You know. Well, that
So
being
you
said,
take all the paper off, all the skin off.
So basically what I'm doing, I'm just squeezing out the top where we cut it, and it's coming all out of there. So I just kind of use a little scraper.
So is this one of the recipes that you've got put down below here? You talk about roasting your garlic? Yes.
So right in the first couple of sentences of our roasted garlic caramel sauce, we have this method on how to roast our garlic. So we've got one. We're going to need a second one for this recipe. So what I do is just get that second one squeezed out as well.
Comes out quite easily, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, exactly. Right. So that's why I say you can do a couple of these. Now, you know, like I said, you can do a few at a time. What I like to do is after this is done, then just to ensure that you get all these sort of skins out, I'll take like a sieve or, you know, like what I've got, this is a chef tool we call a tammy, but basically like a strainer. Okay.
Yes.
And then what I'll do is take my garlic and using sort of a scraper, I'll basically just sort of press it through and just kind of gets if there's any little root end or something like that, you know, something that we don't actually want to eat out. And we're just going to get that through, and it's basically pureeing it. Okay.
That's a really good technique to learn to know.
So yeah, and you see if there was any little bits of skin or anything like that left over, they're going to be caught up right here. And then what we do is just sort of flip it over, and then you end up having this amazing roasted garlic puree.
Ooh, very nice.
It's going to be fantastic. It's going to go amazing with anything like this. So, you know, we know what we're doing with it in our recipe today. You know, we're using for making our caramel, we're using it for this popcorn. But what you can also use your roasted garlic for is, you know, just take a little bit and stir it into some like freshly cooked pasta. And then just to sort of add that extra level, or even just, you know, if you're sauteing some vegetables and you thought, oh, you know what I could just take a little teaspoon of this and just sort of mix this into it and just kind of like bring your veggies up to another level. Even if you're not sauteing your vegetables, but like even if you just steam them a little bit, you know, you just add this garlic to it.
So, Chef, you just take that as it is and add it to the pasta itself, or do you add it into the sauce?
Well, this one, if you could just add this into pasta itself, you could add this into sauce as well. But this, since it's already cooked, what you can do is you can add it just at the end. If you're doing like a nice tomato sauce, you've got your fresh tomatoes came out of the thing and you made some sort of stewed tomatoes or something like that. You just take some of this, you know, a tablespoon of this, and just add it into, you know, a liter or so of your tomato sauce. And it takes that tomato sauce up, gives it another level of flavor, another layer of flavor for it. So it's a versatile thing to have in your kitchen as well. And it's something that at home, my wife and I, we always have some of this sort of going along in our fridge. So if it's around, we'll add it to, you some roasted potatoes or some mashed potatoes or something like that. So you got roasted garlic mashed potatoes. It's like a sort of a staple ingredient you can kind of have around in your kitchen. I mean, that being said, if we want to roast it, we don't want this more than a week in our fridge. We don't want it to go bad on us, but you roast enough for all of a sudden, you know what you're using the first batch for, but then, you know what, we're making mashed potatoes with a roast dinner that we're doing later on this week. I can mix some of my roasted garlic in there as well.
So that's why I failed at roasted garlic potatoes, because I didn't roast the garlic first. I just chopped it up and put it in the garlic. So good technique to know.
Yeah. So and the thing about roasted garlic, it has sort of like, garlic has that, that really strong flavor, but inherently deep down inside, the garlic clove has a bit of sweetness to it. And when we roast it, we really bring that out of the garlic. So
do you have a preferred variety of garlic, seeing as how when we grow garlic these days, we're growing flavors of hardneck garlic? Have you discovered a favorite yet, or are you still
I think I'm still in that point of like, I like the ones that I do grow, and I'm excited about when they do come out of the ground. And I think the varieties that I've used that I grew were the elephant garlic and then a Russian red variety.
That's my favorite. Yes.
Those are, and like nice yield on the cloves, the amount of cloves per head. And I found like those ones were kind of the ones that I really enjoyed using. So.
Yeah, it's about the flavor to me. Yeah. From the garlic that I've tasted over the years. I have the great good fortune to have traveled a little bit and eaten garlic in several countries. So
okay.
So I have a thing about garlic, but I'm interested that you keep it in your fridge. So
well, just for this particular one, for the roasted garlic is where I keep that in the fridge, right? Afterwards. Yeah, I want to keep this in the fridge because obviously it's now that we've added heat to it and that kind of thing, it's going to go sour much faster, right? Because we really brought out the sugars in this one. Now, I don't keep my garlic in the fridge. I've got my garlic in a little garlic keeper on the side of my stove kind of thing. So that's where I'll usually keep my garlic there. So.
All right, Chef Darcy, when we talk about garlic, and I asked you if you talked it over with your chef friends, but I'm assuming that with some of the classes, and I guess I shouldn't assume, but you guys do all these wonderful classes over at the BFK. I like that acronym. Yeah. I really enjoy the fact that you talk about these things, but do you, when, for instance, you're using some of these recipes that you're going to do you talk about the storage of the vegetables, the storage of the garlic, or anything like that in the kitchen?
Yeah, and I think that's inside of our classes, people take value from the recipes that they get from us, but I think a lot more they take value from sort of those tips to make life a little bit easier, life in the kitchen a little bit easier, and then goes along with the storing of vegetables and that sort of thing, and knowing that it's an education. Like if you don't know how to properly store potatoes, then you wonder why you've got all these sort of tendrils coming out of your potatoes like a week after you bought them. But if you don't know to keep them in the dark, then you don't know these things, right? Or you don't know why is all my garlic sprouting when I keep it in the fridge? Because we all know that garlic likes being cold over the winter time. So that's what helps it sprout in the spring. So that's sort of like, knowing those things and utilizing those things. And even my favorite tip to give is, it was always about ginger, because I find when I'm using it at home, I don't use it every day kind of thing. And that's, I'll tell people just buy some ginger, and instead of it just rolling around in your crisper drawer for weeks on end, drying out, then you just peel it, cut it into like 1-inch pieces, put it in the freezer, and then use next time you need it, you can use one of these microplane zesters, and then just grate your ginger on there, and then it's ready to go. It's easy. It's already chopped because it's on the zester, and you look like a champion because you didn't have to worry about getting it from the store. So yeah, it really comes hand in hand, and that's quite often when a virtual class will end, we'll have someone say I'll always kind of be in the background hearing after my screen goes blank, but I'll hear, the tips were great. Like the recipes were really good, but the tips were great. Like, so that's kind of like the things that give you that little bit of extra help behind there. So
I think it's great that the trade of information, but some of the classes that you're getting or that are coming up, I just got to mention this one because I'm kind of deciding whether I should take the at-home French bistro. So
oh yeah. And that one, it's that one actually, I'll be teaching that one. It's kind of at the end of October.
yes.
We're going to be doing like a classic sandwich, which is a croque monsieur, which is fantastic. Basically, like a super fancy ham and cheese. Is
My favorite.
How I break it down. But it's one of those classic bistro, and then we'll be making a niçoise salad as well, which is sort of like it's one of those, that's a recipe where it's a lot of ingredients, but it does give me a chance to sort of like highlight the tips of using this or how to properly cook green beans and that, those sort of things. Those are like the things that I like to share along. And it's the same as your gardening. You have more information that you've forgotten about gardening or I have about cooking that's the stuff that people want to know when they are coming to our classes.
Precisely. So where are we going next with after our roasted garlic? What's next?
All right. So let's make some snack mix. So let's make this sweet and savory garlic bacon popcorn. Okay. So it's pretty simple, straightforward. And what I'm going to start with, what I've got here is a large bowl of popped popcorn. This is about 12 cups of popped popcorn. So that's about between a half cup and 2/3 of a cup of popcorn seeds. I always do my popcorn on the stovetop in a lidded pot. I always find I like it a little bit more than an air popper, but you can pop your popcorn however you like to. Okay, so that's what I've started with here. And to that one, I'm gonna add. I've got 2 cups of salted roasted peanuts. Okay, so you can choose your favorite nut here. You can just add it in just to sort of add a little bit of texture to the popcorn as well. So just going to add those ones in. And then, we can't put bacon in the title unless we have bacon in here. So I've got a couple of slices of some bacon already, already cooked off. And what I'm just going to do is going to chop them finely. So just because I want them bite-sized, I don't want them to be like long pieces this way. I want to cut them sort of those bacon slices in thirds. So you get the nice little dices kind of around the same size as the popcorn kernels, that kind of thing. So just going to slice those ones up and we're going to add that into our big bowl. And then we'll just toss that around just to kind of like mix it together. And then that will be the base for this. But now we just kind of have to make a bit of a sweet sauce to cover this stuff up. The sweet and savory sauce, in fact, is what we're going to make. So what I'm going to have in my frying pan, pot, whatever you like to use for this one. I like frying pan because it's a little bit easier to see in the camera. So I've got a 1/4 cup of corn syrup. Okay, so we're going to add it there first. So a 1/4 cup of our corn syrup in there. Okay.
Chef, I always thought there was more than one kind of corn syrup. Am I?
There's 2 different kinds. Well, I don't want to say there's 2 different kinds. There's a light kind, so it's kind of there has no color to it, and then there's the dark kind. And I'm using the dark kind here just because we want to kind of make sort of it's going to end up being a bit of a caramelly kind of coverage. That's what we're starting with here. So
that's why I wondered.
Well, yeah, either one will work for this. It just will be a little bit lighter in color. So I've got that one there. And then I'm going to add 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar. So packed, of course, in there as well. So we got that one in there. And I'm going to get my pan going here. And I want this to come up to a boil as I'm adding sort of the other ingredients to here as well. So we've got some stuff. We want to spice this up a little bit. So what I've got is a little bit of cayenne pepper. Okay, so a little bit of that. So that's about a 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. And then I've got a 1/4 teaspoon of smoked paprika. Okay, so we're going to have that little smoky flavor in there as well. So you got those ones there. And then to kind of help So to get this, not to be like super thick and too crunchy, I've got a little bit of baking soda that I'm going to add to this as well. It's kind of give a little bit of airiness to our caramel sauce. So I'm just going to mix that one in. And then I'm just going to stir this until it's melted. And as soon as that baking soda gets melted in there, it's going to turn sort of like expand a little bit in our pan here. Okay, so got that one heating up, and we just want this to make sure that it's like got a consistent thickness to it. You don't want to have it so that it's like some of it's melted and some of it's dry. You want to have this completely melted.
And you're stirring continuously as you're doing this?
Give that a stir around until it thins out for us.
Okay.
Okay. And of course, anytime you're working with sugar over heat, it is hotter, it's boiling, and it's boiling at a higher temperature than water. So you want to be very, very careful with this. If this does splash on your skin or something like that, you want to get it into cold water. You want to cool it down because it's quite hot, okay? You don't want to get a little bit on your finger, or you never want to like dip your finger in and try and taste it, because it's going to burn your finger, and then you're going to stick it in your mouth to taste it, and it's going to burn your tongue as well, okay?
Okay, I won't do that then.
No, definitely don't do that. So we've got those ones in there. And then I've got some butter as well. Some unsalted butter we're going to add into this. So
unsalted butter? Okay.
And I'm just going to turn that heat off and just stir in that butter to get that melted in there. And it's all going to kind of come together into a sort of like a nice sauce consistency. We're just stirring that one through. And so once it comes together as like one sort of amalgamated sauce, so it's not like, it's going to have that caramelly look to it, then we're going to stir in our roasted garlic that we had from earlier there. So our 2 heads of roasted garlic that we've strained. And so we're going to stir that one in. So we want this to have that nice, bold, roasted garlic flavor to this. Okay, so we've got that one in there. Then we're going to scrape in our roasted garlic as well. And then what we'll do is we'll just pour this right over top of our mix of popcorn. Got our garlic in there. Everything's stirred together nicely.
So would you put this alongside a zesty flavor or an altogether new taste?
It's a little bit of both, to be honest. But I think, if we're used to, around the holidays or something like that, someone will have that classic sort of poppycock kind of
yes.
snack mix.
Yes.
This is around that. It's around that, but with having the bacon and the garlic mixed in here, it's going to be like, this isn't sort of the one that you're used to. You're going to grab this and be like, oh, what's in here, sort of thing.
Okay.
So once we're all together in this pan, then I'm just going to sort of drizzle this over our popcorn, nuts, and bacon. Just using my scraper to kind of get that all in there. And then I want to gently fold this all together. There we go. We got enough of that in there.
Well, that'd be a really good snack to serve on Thanksgiving dinner.
Exactly. Sort of like when everyone comes by and they get sort of a little handful kind of thing. So we give that a little stir. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that on a baking sheet that's lined with parchment paper, So it's not like all encompassing. It's not covered. It's not like caramel corn that you got from the carnival or anything like that. But everything's sort of mixed together. And then we got our baking pan here. And then what I'll do is just sort of get that onto that baking pan. Just sort of do your best to get it out of the bowl first, and then we can kind of spread it out. Okay. And then we're going to get this into an oven that's at 300 degrees. Okay. Any hotter than 300, you're going to end up burning your caramel sort of popcorn there. So you just spread this one out. If you need to use another baking pan or so, if you don't have one that's quite this large, you can spread it out over two pans. That's fine. But what I kind of do like about having this sort of in this sort of even layer is that when it cools down, you can kind of break it into clusters. So it's not just like individual pieces. You're going to have it as a cluster. So basically, we're going to get this one in the oven, 300 degrees, for about 15 or 20 minutes until it kind of like the caramel sort of crisps up a little bit in there. Then we're going to cool it right down. And once it's like completely cooled, then you can kind of break it into clusters. You get this awesome, amazing, like that like sweetness of the garlic with the bacon and then like the nuts in there and the popcorn. And, that's a fantastic one. I'm going to pop this one in the oven and see where we get to. So yeah, 15 to 20 minutes. Let that one crisp up, cool down to room temperature, and you can break it up into like clusters. You can, this is one of those things too, like if we're still not, you don't get to see our friends or that kind of thing, this is one of those things you can kind of, take a few clusters of it, put it into like those, those little cellophane bags kind of thing, and you're going to drop some off at a neighbor's house or something like that and be like, this is, a gift to you kind of thing. Eat it. You don't say, it's got bacon in there, but you don't have to worry about it. I'm sure they're going to eat it before anything goes by. It's never going to sit out on the counter overnight. It's going to be gone.
I don't think it would last very long. It looks very good.
No, for sure. And then if you were making, a few batches of it, what I would do is actually after it's cooled down, I would like put it in a container. I'd put it in my freezer.
Oh, okay. So it's something that you would do as a matter of course. It's just
you can do that ahead of time, rather in the freezer rather than in the fridge, because the fridge will it'll get a little bit soggy on you, whereas in the freezer kind of like will hold it and sort of set everything up for you. So
that'd be lovely.
Nice little something, just a little bit different, just a little bit different to your thing, and then you're adding, of course, your garden full of garlic. Not that we have to find other ways to use it. We know we're going to use it for garlic gardeners. We're definitely using it in some fashion, right?
Right.
But that is the just a different little way to do that one. So I think that one is a nice little recipe there.
When you're doing in-person classes, I imagine that you get all the senses involved because you can smell it. So when you're doing these virtual classes, do you talk about the fragrance and the smell of the food?
I'll always be like, all of a sudden, the other day I was doing a class where we were doing some braised red cabbage. And I said, well, I know what my kitchen smells like right now. How does your kitchen smell? And I always sort of bring those things like, because cooking is not just always following a recipe. It's actually using all your senses as well, right?
That's right. Exactly.
Very tactile with our hands, obviously, to prepare the things. But then, our nose is above our mouth so that we know that things are good. If it doesn't smell good, our natural instinct is not to put it in our mouth, right? So that's sort of it's your kitchen smells good. And when your kitchen smells good, it brings something to your home as well. So it's always those senses too, and even sound. It's very important. Like when you're having, you're putting something in a pan, and if you don't hear that sizzle, well, the pan's not hot enough, and those sorts of things. So it is using all those senses. So even that sound one is you might not think about it, but it is there for sure.
When you do the classes with the kids, I noticed that you offer some cooking for kids.
Yes.
Do they get right into the sound and the cutting
Yeah, and I mean, that's one of the things that I miss about not having is in-person classes, is having the kids here, because they do have they have a sense of wonder sort of about them when you're showing them things like making pizza or even when I made these pretzel bites that we were serving our garlic caramel with, making them in a class where all of a sudden, they put that ball of dough and it's about yay big. And then an hour later it comes out and it's 3 times the size, and they're like, wow, what? So you really get that chance to explain to them and of what's
Yeah,
going on.
that's the exciting part to me, is the science of the creating chef. I find myself going and making something, and then I go, I didn't know I could do that.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, and that's the thing too. It's you're gonna sort of like bring that when we're doing a class like this, we're gonna do this step by step together as we go here. But when I finish a class, I also like to let people know that they should actually, within a week, make this recipe again. So
yeah,
then you have it in your mind of the things that we talked about when we cut the onions, when we cut the red cabbage, or how we started that roasted garlic by cutting the top off ahead of time, because it's really difficult to cut the top off after it's been roasted and it's really soft, right? So those little
yeah,
things that, oh, I remember that's what Chef Darcy did in this instance. But if I do it like, I remember when we did that popcorn, but what was the one thing that he said was like the definite thing that's not in the recipe, but it was a tip for sure? Or you know what I mean? Like if you do it
yes,
like 3 months from now, you won't remember that. So I always say, I know I don't want you to get bored of what you're making, but like make this again in a week's time. And
that's
then
right.
you can sort of reinforce, like create that muscle memory of what you did. So
So when you're doing these virtual classes, you encourage people to go and buy the ingredients with the
uh,
recipe?
we have a couple of options actually, and it's you can go out. All our recipe packages do come with a shopping list of all the ingredients that they'll buy,
Yes.
and those ones are us as the chefs who come up with the recipe. We also have a fantastic team of home economists that work with the Blue Flame Kitchen. They're located at our Edmonton office, and we'll send them recipes, and they'll come back to us with, here's the shopping list. This is what they need, because my recipe might just call for like 2 cloves of garlic. And they're like, well, you can't go to the grocery store and buy 2 cloves of garlic. You'll have to buy a head of garlic. So that
Yes.
just for the people that don't even, they're not used to it, they're not going like, where do I just buy like 2 cloves of garlic? Oh no, you have to buy a head of garlic in order to get that sort of thing.
Yes.
It's down to that level, so it's easy to sort of interpret kind of thing. And then us as chef instructors is one of those things where I can go, all right, so now you've got a head of garlic that had like 10 cloves in it, and you're not used to using garlic. Okay, so these are some of the things you can do with it. In addition to not just making this recipe over again, you use it a little bit differently. So that's one of the options we have. We also have, for our public classes here in Calgary, you have the option of buying the ingredients from us. And usually they're going to be all pre-measured for you, all ready to go, pretty simple. And it's sort of just like a dump and stir into the pot, and we go from there. I mean, vegetables always make you cut your own vegetables and that sort of thing, but that's an option as well. So we take the shopping aspect out of it for you. You just come in, you'll pick up your kit here. And then we do offer these as private events as well. So if you had a group of friends that wanted to get together, 10 people or 12 people or so, and they wanted to do a class together, or that sort of thing, we do have that option both here in Calgary, and then we're partnered with a catering company in Edmonton that does build some of our recipe kits for us as well, and they can kind of build that up in Edmonton. So that's for our private events up in Edmonton. But yeah, that's kind of one of the things that's.
Well, that would be very handy to be able to try and get involved that way. And then, if you want to make it again, then you can make that other investment and buy extra stuff, especially if it's a big hit. But I think that popcorn's a big hit in my head already. So
yeah. No, and it is, and that's like sort of that method of making that the sweet sauce that's going over. That's kind of, I always think, well, that's kind of like a different way to make caramel. But this next recipe that we're going to do,
yes,
this is like the real deal. This is how we make caramel. And if you've not made caramel sauce before, it's simple. And there's only, in a traditional caramel sauce, there's only 3 ingredients.
Wow.
One is white sugar, whipping cream, so 33% cream, and a little bit of butter.
Ooh.
So it's just those 3 ingredients. Now, I like my caramel to have a little bit of savory to it, so I do add a little bit of salt to mine.
Favorite thing.
Little salted caramel, right?
Yes.
You can't go wrong with that. But today we are going to make this to another level with our roasted garlic puree, made before, and it's just like it sort of makes your mouth just like
It is. It's watery.
it does this, yes, right? So the trickiest part is kind of getting this caramel to our the right color for us. So I've got like, always find like a larger, flatter pan seems to be the easiest for me. Like using like a wider base pan, or even what we used before with that caramel, we use that larger frying pan.
Right.
And make sure when you're using the burner that it's going to be the burner that is going to fit underneath the pan. What we don't want is we don't want heat coming up the sides, because then we're going to introduce heat in places that we don't want. So we want to make sure that if I'm using this, I don't want to use a pot that's too small for the burner. So as in usually you want to use the appropriate burner for us. I mean, I have 6 burners here and they're all the same size. So that's why I'm not using a small pot or anything like that. So what I'm going to do is just simply take my 1 cup of sugar and just add that into my pan, like so. And then I like to just shake it out, okay? A couple of tips with this is your pan, give it like a really good clean. Make sure it's really, really clean, because what can happen is sometimes is that the sugar will actually crystallize on you, and it'll almost turn like opaque color to it, and then it won't do what you want it to do. Okay, so that's hopefully we won't have that happen, so I won't have to show you what that looks like.
Okay.
So I want to put mine on about a medium-high heat for this one, and I really don't want to touch it too much. I just want to leave it sort of leave it do its thing, and you're going to see. You can give it a little shake here and there, but I do like to have, in your kitchen, I always think like one of the #1 tools in any kitchen should be rubber heat-resistant spatulas, okay? You can never have too many of them around.
Oh,
you always like it's them. Oh yeah. Always, all ours are kind of the same one, but the same brand, but if you're ever wondering what to buy someone that likes to be in the kitchen, just buy them a heat-resistant spatula or silicone spatula. You can never go wrong with that idea, because it's just handy to have them around.
So Chef, I'm sitting here watching your sugar sitting on the burner, and you've turned the burner on. You're not concerned that it's scorching or burning, or?
No, I'm not really concerned with that at all. It's because I'm going to start to see around the edges, because that's usually where the thinnest part is it's going to start to melt. You'll see the sugar start to turn into sugar, and that's kind of what we're looking for. And this is kind of one of those patience things, okay? And this where as a chef, I have to kind of like channel my like really small part of me that's like pastry chef, which is very, very small. Like I'm not a pastry chef at all. So this is the one where I have to kind of like channel that and be patient.
Okay.
And relax.
I'm panicking already. So
you're panicking already. All right. Well, I want to get in there and stir. So what can happen when you stir it up is actually your sugar will all of a sudden like start to clump together. And then those pieces won't really caramelize at the same time. You know what I mean? So what happens all of a sudden, the stuff that's not clumped up, that's going to be starting to turn into that caramel color. But then the stuff that is clumped up is still white, and it's not cooked out properly. So then you're going to end up with like burnt caramel. So that's kind of the
okay.
And the thing is with this, it's a cup of sugar. We don't always want to like waste anything like that. But if it does burn, I'd rather stop and start over again than I would to get there. So around the edges, I'm starting to see a little bit of color kind of come. So it's good. And I'm not worried yet at all. I'm in good shape here. You're going to start to see around the edges. It's going to start, or the thinner parts, where you're going to start to see the sugar sort of melting together into there. And then the only time I want to start stirring it is I start seeing like an area where it's going to be a little bit darker than anywhere else. That's when I'm going to start moving things around in here to get things moving. Okay. But this is one of those ones too, because it has so few ingredients here, I've got them already sort of measured out, ready to go at my side when I need them, sort of thing. So that's really what I want. Have this ready to go. So when the caramel or when the sugar is ready, I'm not racing around to get my tablespoon of butter out, or I'm trying to measure my cup of, or my half cup of whipping cream. So I really want to make sure that those things are kind of ready to go. If that makes sense, right?
Yes, yes.
So that's what we call.
See.
In a kitchen, that's what we refer to as chefs as a French term. It's called mise en place. Okay, so that means everything in its place. So that means, like, you know, in the restaurant kitchen, you know, if you go out for dinner, that kind of thing, that chef that's working there has all their equipment sort of ready to go. Okay, so I'm just going to leave this for just a second because my oven's going off right now. I'm going to pull that. We've got our caramel has come out, our caramel popcorn. So I'm just going to leave that here while I tend to this caramel here. Now I'm going to start to give it a stir around in here.
Ooh, look at the color.
So there we go. We've got this nice sort of color here.
Well done, chef. Well done.
So right at this point, we've got our caramel sauce. Now I'm going to turn the heat right off. And I'm even going to move that off the heat. So off, because it's going to, this is cast iron, it's going to hold that heat in there.
Okay.
And we're going to be very carefully, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my tablespoon of butter in here, okay? And you're going to get, because caramel is really, really hot, it's much hotter, that sugar again is really, really hot. You're going to get that butter is going to start to melt and sort of bubble and sizzle right away. So we want to be very careful in our stirring, okay?
Yes.
And so once we have our butter has melted and is incorporated in there, then we're going to add our whipping cream. And again, we want to be very careful. We're going to get a really serious big sizzle here when we pour this one in.
Ooh, yes.
You get that instantly.
Yeah, instant change there.
Instant change, right? So basically, that coolness of the cream is kind of like turned it into like a bit of a
Chef, you're not using the cream at room temperature. It's cooled from the fridge still.
So it's cool. I've had mine out of the fridge for a little bit, but okay. only about a half an hour or so.
Okay.
So we're just gonna stir that in. But you see, we've got sort of this syrupy bit here. We just want to stir that in. Eventually, it's going to come all together into a beautiful sort of like caramel sauce. And this is really like the basis for, like, you know, just take this caramel and pour it over your vanilla ice cream and you have caramel sauce, you know, or on your favorite dessert. So just being very patient with this, stirring in a controlled fashion. We don't want to be splashing this stuff around, okay? We also don't want to be dipping our finger in here to taste it, right? This is like molten, almost like stirring a pot of lava. That's what, being very careful here. We're just stirring that one around until it really sort of incorporates and it kind of comes all together as one sort of sauce. And once that's together, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring that back onto my burner. I'm going to turn my burner back onto like a medium heat. And then I'm going to add my salt to this. So it's about a teaspoon of salt, okay?
Yes.
We've added in there. Just give it a little stir around. Some sea salt. I don't want to use table salt for this one, okay? Sea salt or kosher salt. I don't want to use table salt for this one. Put that one in there. And so once we kind of come back to where we're getting a little bit of a boil here, I'm going to turn it off again. It just kind of helps incorporate the last little bits there. And then we've got our garlic puree that we had earlier. And then we're just going to use our spatula and we're going to stir that one in until we've got a nice consistency to that one.
And it just melds in with the color.
It just melds in because what we've done is we passed it through that strainer before. So it's basically, we've chopped it basically.
Yes.
That strainer. So we just want to like give that a stir through. Now, if you wanted to, you could grab a whisk and you could whisk this together, or you could just, like I'm trying to make myself sort of stuff. I really don't like doing dishes. So I don't want to make more dishes than I need.
Well, everybody doesn't like doing dishes.
No, well, I have my mother-in-law and one of my wife's aunts. They actually told me that they like doing dishes.
Oh
It
my
was
goodness. So do you invite them over often?
often, as often as they want to come over, for sure.
Good.
Definitely come over. Now this, I wish Zoom would come up with that sort of like smell-o-vision, because
Yes.
this has just like this, that caramelly smell, but then it has this underlying roasted garlic as well to
Oh,
it.
yes.
So once that's stirred together, now what you can do with this is that you can get this into a container. You can let it cool down to room temperature. You can refrigerate this. And then we will actually really want to serve it warm, because once it's refrigerated, it gets a little bit thick and you won't be able to dip much in there. So
Yeah.
just in the microwave for about 15 to 20 seconds, and it's going to be warmed right back up. But what I'm doing with this one is this sort of caramel on the side of our pretzel bites. Okay.
Ooh.
So just like that. And you could always give that, I mean, the pretzel bites, we've already got a little bit of salt on there, but you could always like put some Maldon salt or something like that over top, just have it, give that nice look as well. But this is another level. It's so good. I mean, last year we were talking about chocolate and caramel, or chocolate and garlic. This year we're talking about caramel and garlic, just like something a little bit different for us, how to enjoy that harvest that we.
Well, with Thanksgiving coming up, we've got the hors d'oeuvres in the beginnings.
There we go.
You can just go to the Blue Flame Kitchen website and order a turkey dinner.
That's right. That's right. We have a fantastic turkey dinner, coming up here with our website. And whether you order it as an entire package, it comes with a brine turkey breast,
Yes.
which you're going to roast. That's the only cooking you're really going to have to do is that brine turkey breast. You have to roast that one. But we have the leg and thigh meat. We've actually done in a confit style, which is cooked in its own fat. So it is absolutely gorgeous. And then you reheat that in the oven. The skin gets nice and crispy. We've got a beautiful cauliflower gratin, brown butter mashed potato to go with that, some fantastic vegetables as well. And of course, pumpkin pie to add on. Now you can order that as a package, or you can order that as a individual item. So if you wanted to, even if you ordered a package, then you could, my family loves mashed potatoes. We're going to need an extra order of mashed potatoes sort of thing. So you can do that either. You can pick up those items a la carte here at Atco Park, or you can order that stuff all like our takeaway meals that we've been doing for the last 18 months on our website at atcoblueflamekitchen.com. So
well, I'm actually quite a fan of your takeaway meals. So I think those are great. But I mean, all of these things that are happening at the Blue Flame Kitchen just fascinate me. So go on their website and look at what their classes are, but they have a newsletter too.
That's right. It's really simple. I mean, you can have our information come to you weekly. We have a fantastic weekly newsletter. You can just sign up for that on our website by entering your email address in there, and it'll come to your inbox once a week. And every week it's a little bit different. It'll be highlighting things that are good that week. It'll be highlighting our upcoming Thanksgiving, and not just like for you to order a meal package. We want to be a broader appeal than just here in the Calgary area, but also like throughout Alberta sort of thing. So it's really going to like Alberta and of course the rest of Canada, and of course wherever you're at, the World Wide Web, of course, right? But it's going to have those fantastic things that maybe you didn't know about that are going to be helping you out. Like in addition to the food that we do, our home economists are experts in working in the home. So like that's you don't know how to do laundry, well, they're going to be able to help you out. You don't know how to sew a button, they're going to help you out there too. So like these things are all available on our website. That's why our website's kind of like a unicorn out there. We don't, there's food websites and there's other websites, but we have everything sort of all together there with the expertise that kind of backs it up as well. So,
well, it's certainly been really interesting once again. And now you've introduced me to more really interesting sweet things. Like I'm still loving the garlic chocolate, so I can't not say that. But Chef Darcy, it's once again another year, and I'm glad to see you at harvest time, and hopefully we can continue to meet up in the garden.
That's right. I hope so too. As long as they have a space for me to garden in here, I'll definitely be getting my hands dirty every spring, and coming up, of course, every fall, getting it ready for the next year. So
that's right, and I look forward to doing some more chefing with you. Although I'm not a chef.
Well, no, that's fine, and I want everyone to learn. So thank you very much. It's been fantastic. And just one other thing, this video too is going to be available on the website for an additional week as well, all the way till October 3rd. So if there's anything here that you wanted to see again, or you know, that sort of thing, then you'll be able to check it out one more time. What was it he said about the caramel? That sort of thing. You'll be able to check back and see what.
Well, I'm going to have to check back because I'm really going to have to try all this out. Thank you so much, Chef Darcy, and the Blue Flame Kitchen.
Thank you so much, Kath.
Thanks.